Another broad area that you need to think about from the upfront is financials. Now, I have seen a lot of acquirers over the years get approached by a potential target. You might have a local competitor who you've known for 30 years who says, you know what, I'm about ready to retire and I want to sell my business. And you say, well, it's a great opportunity. I know a couple of his employees. I think they're fantastic. I can definitely serve those customers. The old man wants to retire. Maybe I can work out a deal where I pay him overtime. That's all well and good. But Rodney here, Hot Rod, running this business, hasn't done his books for the better part of a decade. I mean, he's using like a cigar box. He's got a bunch of receipts in there, and it is a mess. You have to think about what you're willing to be bogged down with during due diligence. Is unfucking his books on $1 million acquisition while you're running a $30 million firm, is that worth you and your team's time? Now, you might answer yes. We can wait. I've got the resources. I've got the capabilities. We can get through that very quickly. Others of you may not. So you have to think about that, because at the end of the day, you're buying financial performance. So understanding the books, being able to diligence the books are going to be an extremely important aspect. Why I mention all these things is because I think it's really important to put together an acquisition criteria list prior to even going out to the market. So you've determined what your business strategy is. You've figured out what sort of problems acquisitions can solve. It might be geographic growth. You might be interested in buying different capabilities, maybe technological capabilities. You might be interested in acquiring some hard to reach customers. There's a variety of business reasons why you might do an acquisition, but you've identified a gap and you realize an acquisition may be the best way to solve that. Now I say may because it all comes down to the value equation, right? You can buy the best company in the world, but if you overpay for it, it's still a bad investment. So later in the series, we're going to talk about price and risk and valuation, and we'll talk about that in the offer stage and the negotiation stage. Today, though, I want to really focus more on this whole criteria situation. Now, let's say you've now thought through your strategy, right? You say, number one, I'm focused on increasing cash flow, decreasing risk. Therefore, my business strategy is X, Y, and Z. In order to accomplish my business strategy, I have specific gaps. And those gaps might be, I need to buy some hard to reach customers. I need to get into a new geography. I need to buy some technological capabilities. There's a variety of different valid reasons for doing an acquisition that ties to your business strategy. Now, how do you source them? Well, you've got your criteria list. You've put this together. You said, okay, I'm interested in companies that do X to Y in revenue. Here's what the cash flow needs to be. I'd prefer to have an owner who's retiring. You've got a huge list, effectively put together a box here. And that's going to help you on the upfront screening those acquisition candidates. So now you start to think about the universe of potential targets. Now, depending upon your business, this is going to vary wildly. Right? On the one hand, if you own a lawn care business in South Central United States, you might have 200 or 300 potential acquisition targets in your geography. Right? I mean, there's a ton of them. Right? There's 50 lawn care companies in every town. So you might have a lot to choose from. You might have to say, okay, there's 500 potential opportunities, and I really need to think about which ones fit within my acquisition criteria. And after you run that through your criteria, you might still have 100 potential opportunities. That's one thing. But if you run a business it's a software business that focuses on point of sale and inventory control for the hospitality industry, you might literally have 3 or 4 potential acquisition targets globally, at least in your specific business. Now, maybe your strategy is to move away from that or add adjunct services to your offering, but in your specific industry, you probably count on 2 hands how many potential targets there are globally. So that puts you in a very different position, and it actually makes your job easier, right? Now, when we think about the reach out, there's a variety of ways to do this. And in the Sell-Side Masterclass, I talked about being a hunter or a fisher. When you're selling your business, I told you to be a hunter. You can't sit back and wait for buyers to come in. And this is one of those areas where you're going to take the same strategy on the buy side. You can be a fisher and just basically hang back and wait for people to call you up. You can wait for bankers to say, hey, Paul, I've got a business that looks like it's a great match for your company. You want to buy it? You can wait for a lawyer to call you up and say, hey, my client's getting divorced or retiring and wants to sell the business, and we thought we'd reach out to you. You can certainly do that. You might end up waiting a decade for your phone to ring, but you can do that. You can hire a buy-side broker of some sort, or an advisor who basically goes out, makes calls, sends annoying emails on your behalf, and tries to drum up some business. You can do that. And these guys will boil the ocean, and they will send out a ton of annoying form letter emails that I know every one of you probably gets a dozen of them every day. I'm engaged by a client who's really interested in buying your business, would love to talk. And they just sent that out to 10,000 people, right? Not very effective, but it's highly efficient, and it's highly efficient as far as the use of your time. And then you can take a play from the private equity playbook when it comes to building an acquisition pipeline. If you're going to take the fishing approach, which is kind of sit back and wait, you're already behind everyone else. But if you're going to get really aggressive, certainly you could use a buy-side broker. But the best way to do this is actually develop your own in-house capabilities. If you're building a business where you think you can create a lot of value by doing acquisitions, and acquisitions are one of those things that, you actually will learn a lot of things about yourself and your capabilities if you do many of them, because you are going to screw a lot of them up because you can't know the things that you can't know. And no matter what sort of advisors you bring in-house to help you, certainly they're going to help you stay out of hot water. But a lot of these lessons, unfortunately, as you and I both know, we have to learn the expensive way through direct experience. And so that's what will happen. And the more acquisitions you do, the better you'll get at them over time. But the private equity guys and the large corporates, they build their own pipeline of proprietary deals. And there's a reason why they do that. So if you think back to my sell-side M&A discussion, I said one of the absolute best things a seller can do when selling his business is bring in competition. That's one of the best things you can do, not only from a psychological perspective, because it gives you a lot of resolve. You can easily tell somebody to go pound sand when you got a lot of other buyers there, right? So it helps you from a psychological perspective. It also creates somewhat of a quasi-auction where you've got buyers bidding against themselves. So if that's really good for sellers, it's really bad for you, a buyer, right? So whatever's good for the seller on a sell side situation is bad for you, the buyer, in a buy side situation. So you do not want to go and deal with investment bankers if you can. I mean, I'm going to be honest with you. When small or medium-sized firms call POTOMAC, we typically they'll call us up and say, hey, here's the industry we're looking at. Here's our criteria. We'd really like an opportunity to work with you. If you have anything, please send it our way. And we might look at it and say it's a small or mid-sized family business. It's conservative. I actually don't feel good about selling businesses to them because I know I'm going to make them overpay, right? I would rather make a large publicly traded company overpay or a private equity firm overpay than some guy running this $30 million family business who wants to do a deal. He's going to end up overpaying. It's going to be, I'm selling a great company. He's going to overpay for it. It is a bad investment. So in the same way, you deal with sell-side guys like me, you are naturally going to put into a competitive process. Corporates know it, private equity firms know it, and now you know it. So you need to avoid as much as you can. I'm not saying you can't get a deal from a sell-side guy. There are a lot of sell-side guys out there that have no idea what they're doing, and they just want to close a transaction. You may get lucky, but I think more times than not, at bare minimum, even if the sell-side advisor sucks, that seller is going to have some semblance of competition, which is going to change the psychological calculations in his or her mind. So avoid that. Go out and build your proprietary funnel. And the way you're going to do that is reach out directly to potential sellers. Now, I think there's a lot of ways to do this. You could take kind of the buy-side broker approach, which is like, hey, I'm really interested, or the search fund approach. You probably get a lot of emails from search funds. Like, we're looking to buy one really good business and run it. Okay, fine. You could take that approach and send out emails, but from my perspective, that's noise, right? I mean, I think most of those things get deleted. It's really hard to differentiate yourself on an email, like who you are versus them. Now, they might recognize your company. You might be like, oh, that's my crosstown rival. He's been in business 30 years. I want to go talk to him. But if you can figure out a way to have direct contact with the right person at the target company and then set up a lunch or a dinner. It doesn't have to be courtside at the Bulls and dinner at Gibson's. It could be a simple lunch or breakfast at a diner where you say, hey, I'm really growing my business and I think your business might potentially fill a gap for me. Where are you in your journey? Is selling anytime soon? Interesting possibility for you? And if it's not, that's fine. You just want to get your name out there that I am somebody who's interested in making an acquisition. I'd love the opportunity to sit down with you. I think you have an interesting business. I'd like to dig into it a little bit more. But on its face, it seems like there could be an interesting discussion here. If you're open to it, great. If you're not, fine with that as well. Here's my number. Let's periodically get together. And by the way, I'll help you any way I can. If you can begin to build a personal relationship with a variety of different targets in your industry, in your geography, or whatever the end point here you're looking is, I guarantee you, you're going to be top of mind when these guys start to think about selling their business. Like you're going to be, they have a name to a face. You've spent time with them. You've invested in them. It's far more powerful than a stack of 180 emails they have in their inbox. We'll be filming the remainder of the Buy-Side Masterclass series in the coming weeks. So if you have any requests or questions, feel free to put them in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. And finally, as we get into the more technical aspects of buy-side M&A, I'll be able to provide you with a variety of different items, such as a template LOI, a buy-side due diligence checklist that I think will come in handy as you go out and attempt to make acquisitions on your own. I put a link in the description section below. You can click on that so you can be notified as soon as those are ready to go out. Here at POTOMAC, we love to kill it for our clients. And I think that education is the cornerstone which allows our clients to make the best decisions for themselves. The more you can understand about the nuances of how strategic acquirers work, how the operations of private equity firms work, and the psychology and the tactics of an M&A transaction, the better you're going to be when it comes time to pull the trigger. If you own a business and you're being contacted by strategic acquirers, search funds, private equity firms, and you're trying to size up what you might do, take a step back and give us a call. We'll help you forge a plan, whether that exit is a year from now, 5 years from now, or 10 years from now. We'll help you think through a plan that is specifically tailored to your financial goals and objectives. So please contact us directly. I've put a link to the contact form in the description of this video, and you can also contact me directly on LinkedIn. And feel free to share this masterclass series with somebody who you think might benefit from it. Again, I'm Giannamore. Thank you for joining me today, and I'll see you on the next one.